Bobby Tarantino 2 is the newest project from Logic. The Maryland rapper has had a project out, I think, every year now since around 2011 or 2010. This is the sequel to the first Bobby Tarantino, which to me was kind of the beginning of Logic's downfall. Quality-wise, obviously, in terms of popularity, he's only gotten more and more popular. Last year, he really blew up with that 1-800 song, so congrats to him for that. But quality-wise, Bobby Tarantino was mediocre to me. Everybody I thought was completely insufferable. I was hoping with that album it'd kind of bounce back, but I thought that album was just atrocious, like impossible to sit through without wanting to just tear my hair out because, oh my god, it was one of the most boring, preachy pieces of shit that I've ever heard. It was like my second or third least favorite album of last year, so that album sucked. I know some people think he started to go downhill with The Incredible True Story. Personally, I remember really liking that record. I haven't heard it since it came out. Maybe my opinion would have changed, but when it came out, I remember really liking it, and I enjoyed all his work previous to that. His Young Sinatra mixtape series, his debut album, Under Pressure. I was never this huge Logic fan. I never thought he was one of the best out there, but I used to think he made really solid music and I really enjoyed it. But since Bobby Tarantino and everybody, I just kind of, I never wanted to get my hopes up for another Logic project. I was just kind of dismiss him now. When he comes out with something, I'll check it out, see if it's worth my time. And with Bobby Tarantino too, it's kind of the same thing. At least it's not horrible like everybody. I can say it's a step up from that. But overall, this is just completely mediocre hip-hop. The beats on here are completely average. There's almost nothing special production-wise throughout this whole project. Yes, Logic has fast and sometimes impressive flows. He's a good technical rapper, he always has been, but that does not mean he makes great music. Logic kind of lacks in the artistry department. He doesn't know how to put his talent to good use for the most part, especially over these past few years. And not to mention on this project, it kind of just seems like he's using very similar flows throughout the whole thing, so it kind of just gets dull anyways. I mean, there's nothing impressive about him just flowing fast, talking about nothing, because the lyrics on here are just nothingness. There's nothing he's really talking about at all. The only lyrical moments that stick out really is when he says a really corny, horrible line. There's a lot of really bad singing across this project. Logic's singing voice, it's not as bad as a lot of rappers out there, because it seems like nowadays every rapper's got to try their hand at singing, and most of them sound completely atrocious. Logic isn't horrific, he's just kind of bad, but I mean, it's still bad, and it's not something I want to listen to. You listen to the first half of Midnight. Overnight, there are parts on the songs Boom Trap, Protocol, Wizard of Oz, and Contra where Logic is doing this really horrible Travis Scott ripoff singing shit. And I mean, not only with his use of autotune, but with his melodies and flows and ad-libs. I mean, it's a clear Travis Scott ripoff. And then there's the song Everyday, which actually does have atrocious singing. I mean, it just sounds horrible. This is easily the worst song on the album too. It's utter garbage, and it also has a horribly obnoxious EDM beat courtesy of Marshmello. Now with both Bobby Tarantino projects, Logic decided to go in a more trap-oriented direction, and just that concept alone, him going in that direction, I have nothing wrong with it, just the idea of him going out and trying to do a different style. I just think he doesn't know how to do it well. I just really think he does not fit this style of music at all. He sounds a little bit less awkward making this style of music than he did on the first Bobby Tarantino, but he just does not sound natural on trap beats at all, even when he's doing his dumb singing shit. Even the two moments on this album where I want to say he did this style well, really the two moments are decent at best. There's the second half of Midnight where I like the woozy piano line and the way Logic rides it, but some of the lines on here, no kiddin' like vasectomy, and worst of all, I'm black and white like a piano. I mean, that rivals the Bye Felicia line from Black Spider-Man as just the corniest, worst shit he's ever said. And then there's 44 More, which even though it does sound like a complete ripoff of DNA with that beat switch where there's that yelled vocal sample that sounds almost identical to the one used on Kendrick's song, this is still a decent track overall, I guess. And really, again, it's just a case of I actually think he fits the beat on this song, and he changes up his flows a few times so his flow is a little bit more interesting than usual, because he's saying nothing of interest across this entire song lyrically, and the beat, I mean, it's average trap at best. So even the moments on here that I think are decent where he does this style okay are just, they're still completely average and mediocre. There's nothing on this album that I'm ever going to return to. There are a couple songs on here that are slightly better than this and probably hit the pretty good range, still nothing worthy of returning to, but Indica Badu with Wiz Khalifa, it has a nice, smooth, jazzy instrumental. Logic's flow is a little bit more interesting than it is on some of these other songs, plus Wiz Khalifa comes in here to break up the monotony with one of the best features he's probably ever given, because, I mean, I've never liked Wiz Khalifa. Every time he appears on a song, he just makes me want to fall asleep. So the fact that I actually thought he had a decent verse on here, he came through with actually a pretty cool flow, a little more rapid fire than what he's usually doing. I mean, nothing extremely fast, but just he sounded a little more lively and energetic than he usually does, so I appreciated his contribution on here. Though I do have to say, Logic almost single-handedly ruins this song with the horribly cringy outro on here where he's just yelling out, "If you didn't already know by now, I smoke weed." Like, shut the fuck up, Logic. Nobody gives a shit. And Warm It Up to me actually serves as a perfect example of how Logic's old style of music is much better than this trap shit that he's trying out. His verses are done as young Sinatra, so essentially just him from his mixtape days, and his flow on here, it's his best on the whole project. He sounds more comfortable on this boom bap type beat than he does on any other song on here. And then the chorus is done as his Bobby Tarantino personality, where it switches to this little trap thing, and it sounds awful. I mean, it almost completely kills the vibe of the song. So I feel like the song kind of backfired on Logic. Instead of just being a fun throwback to his old music, instead it kind of shows us, at least it showed me, that what he used to do in the past, he used to actually make some really solid hip-hop, and now he's just making kind of trash. I mean, trash is probably too strong a word. That's a word I probably want to save for the Lil Yachty's and Playboy Cardis and all those people out here. Logic's music, okay, everybody was trash, I'll say that, but this Bobby Tarantino tape, there's not much music on here that I'd say is atrocious. There's some bad stuff. Most of it's just mediocre, so maybe trash is too strong. But you get the point. The music that he makes as Bobby Tarantino is just not very good. It's not very interesting. And also, even just saying that, as young Sinatra on here, although he has a nice flow and he rides the beat really well on his verses, he's still saying absolutely nothing of interest. So I just want to point out on here where he says that he's a god-level lyricist, I just have to roll my eyes. Because he backs that claim up nowhere on this song, nowhere on this album. In fact, if anything, the lyrics that he has that aren't average, that stand out, that are highlights, are because they're horrible lines, not because they're good. I also roll my eyes because I'm just thinking about how I know Logic stans actually think that he's some incredible lyricist, when I could name 200 rappers from this decade alone who are better lyricists than Logic is. I mean, even Logic's music that I do like, he was never some insane, crazy lyricist. He used to have better storytelling ability than he does now, but he's still never been incredible. At his best, he was a solid writer, nothing more, and now he just raps about nothing. He doesn't even have any witty punchlines or clever wordplay, and actually when he is talking about something or attempting to, like on Everybody, it just comes off as super corny, super preachy. And speaking of corny slash bad Logic lyrics, I have some here. There's that whole bit on Overnight which just makes me want to vomit, where he's saying like, tell me, is it really so hard? Is it so hard to be a good person? Is it really so hard to stop acting like a bitch? I treated everybody with respect and now I'm rich. I treated everybody with respect. Maybe you got issues with your daddy though. Maybe you were bullied back in high school. Maybe you are just a tool. Ah, wah, wah, wah. Then there's this part on Contra where he says, I keep it G. Matter of fact, I keep it, 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 I keep it M. Turn that shit upside down. Now it's a W. You're so fucking clever, Logic. And finally, there's these two lines. They're both from different songs, but they're practically the same thing, just reworded, and it's vomit. The first one is from Contra also, where he says, I'm not one to flex, but yeah, I'm finna flex. And then there's this part on a song, I forgot to write down what song it was, so whatever, you might know it's not easy. There's on one song he says, I don't mean to stunt on they asses, but I'm finna stunt on they asses. Yeah, I'm finna stunt on they asses. Like, holy fucking God, if Logic doesn't sound like the biggest asshole in the fucking world, he's like trying to play it humble, he's like, I'm not gonna flex, but yeah, I'm gonna flex. Like, oh my Jesus Christ, that's the most childish, whiny, oh. So dear Logic, if you're watching this, when you say lines like those, you just sound like a complete asshole, or as maybe you'd like to say, as a complete tool. There's also so many instances on this album, and I mean like a depressingly high number of instances on this album, where Logic can't seem to find the right words he wants to make a bar in his song fit his cadence, so instead he just repeats one or two words over and over and over just to fill out the bar. I mean, if that's not lazy songwriting, that right there is the epitome of lazy songwriting. I mean, for a guy who claims that he's a god-level lyricist, he should be able to come up with some better shit than fucking this. Two more quick things. First of all, there's a part on one of these songs, I forgot to write down which one, but where he says that your favorite producer would get murdered by Six, which of course is the guy who produces pretty much all his music. And I just have to say that Six, like, no offense to the guy, I get Logic, I get why Logic would prop him up. I mean, he makes all of his music and he's his friend, so of course Logic is going to say that. I'm not faulting Logic for this, but Six has to be one of the most average producers in the game. Like, he doesn't make horrible beats at any points, but I've never heard a beat from him that was any better than pretty good. I mean, he just makes average, mediocre beats at best, so I mean, I just have to say that statement. I'm not faulting Logic for saying it, but it's just completely false. And second of all, every time on this project where Logic says that he's the greatest rapper alive, I just can't help but just facepalm, because wow, that could not be further from the truth. Once again, I could name hundreds of rappers, literally hundreds. Like, I know there might be a Logic stan in the comment going like, okay, name them. Like, I'll give you the list. I can name hundreds, plural, of rappers that are better than Logic, not only lyrically, but just in general, and especially as an artist. Logic is a really, really poor artist. I mean, I feel like he thinks he's some sort of genius, like he has all these big concepts, even though like his concept from Everybody was stolen. He steals ideas and styles from people, and like he's not even borrowing influences or anything. Like when he does it, when he rips off Kendrick or Drake or on this thing Travis Scott, like it's a clear ripoff. It's not just taking influences. Like he's one of the laziest and poorest artists in hip hop right now, even though he has good technical abilities. But all I'm trying to say is Logic. You're nowhere close to the greatest rapper alive, and I mean, I get having an ego is kind of part of hip hop, but if you're gonna say shit like that, back it up. And you know what? You don't. You're not even close to the greatest rapper alive right now. But yeah, as you can see, I have a really high distaste for this album. Honestly, I was originally going to put this at around like a 2.25, 2.5 range. But just thinking about this album and just talking about it now, I've kind of talked my way down to like a 1.75 out of 5. That's going to be my final score here. The more I think about this album and the more I listen to it, I only gave it like 3 or 4 listens because I just can't be bothered. It's just mediocre, boring fucking hip hop that, you know, because of Logic and his corny ass lyrics and just his nothingness, this album just really annoys me now that the more I think about it. So I'm just give it a 1.75 out of 5. This is not good. Like I said, mediocre at best. And yeah, nah, this is no. But if you did like this project for whatever reason, tell me why down in the comments below. I would do that corny thing where I say, but be polite and respectful about it. But honestly, I don't care. I was harsh throughout this whole review, so you can be harsh back at me. Tell me my intelligence just isn't high enough to comprehend the genius that is Logic. Tell me that I'm a stupid piece of shit who just doesn't know shit about hip-hop. I don't give a fuck. Go off. I don't even care. Just whatever. This album sucks to me, so it's cool. But anyways, thank you guys as always for watching, and I will see you next time.